Okay, adding rocks and foliage can really enhance your landscape and give it a level of believability. So let's go into Bryce and I'll show you where those are. Go to the Create tab, and there's a rock right next to the tree. See, I accidentally got the tree, so if you do that, just get rid of the tree and grab the rock there. And the limitation with rocks is that you can't really edit the edges. So you just have to either, if you don't like the shape of the rock, if it seems unnatural and too angular, you can just rotate it. Another option would be to delete it and click on the rock icon again, and it'll give you a new shape. But sometimes just rotating them, where you hide the jagged edges, makes it look more like a believable rock. This one looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave it like it is. And I'll just try to find a spot for this rock. This can kind of break up the monotony of the shoreline, because it's kind of just like a straight curve at this point. So I want to create a disruption to that curved line there along the shore and the water. So yeah, so these rocks are pretty easy to work with, and again, mostly you're limited on how much you can edit them, but you can rotate them and position them in a way that they'll look convincing. Okay, it looks pretty good off in the shade there too. Okay, let's add another one. Again, this one looks pretty round too, so I think we're in good shape here. I don't have to do that much to them other than just position them down into the ground and give them the right textures, I guess. So let's see what that looks like. Make that one a little larger. Okay. Okay, you can see the rock shape looks pretty convincing. It's pretty round, but the texture is way too shiny. So I'm going to give that a much earthier tone. I'm going to try a wood texture, believe it or not. That looks kind of cool. It's called Old Mossy Wood. I like that because it has a little bit of a mossy color on it. That's working. That looks like a rock texture enough. So see here, just adding a couple of rocks in breaks up the monotony of that curved line, that perfectly curved shoreline. Okay, another thing we can work on is creating foliage. So again, I'm going under the Create menu and looking for some special foliage here. Vegetation, I think, is what I want, which is down below here. But I'm just showing you here, there's so many different ready-made objects that you can use that can make your workflow a lot easier. Okay, and I'm going to grab the red flowers here, give it some color in the front. Okay, and then you'll have to reposition those. Okay, bring that down into the ground maybe. Okay, and then I can I can duplicate them also if I want to create a couple of them. Okay, so I just duplicated it. And you can actually rotate these, although you won't see, you do have to hit Control. Here, I'm just sinking that down a little more. Okay, and then it adds a little color in there. It's kind of hard to see on a small screen, but you can see two red flowers there. And again, I think it lends to the believability of the landscape. to add a couple of flowers here and there. You don't have to go crazy with them. Just enough to tempt the reader with tempt the viewer with the possibility of looking into a real photograph, I guess. Spent too much time teaching English, so I say the reader. Okay, again, so you can duplicate these, you can rotate them. Again, control. So you might want to just rotate them, resize them a little bit, maybe angle them in a slightly different way to create that randomness in nature. If it's too uniform, it's going to look unrealistic. So I can also use these yellow flowers too to create some color variety and variation, I guess. Okay, so again, I'm just adding a few flowers here along with the rocks to lend an air of believability to the whole thing, the whole package here. Okay, so you have a couple of yellow flowers in there, a couple of red flowers. Starts to look convincing there. Control click if you're having trouble selecting them. There it is. Okay. Maybe I'll duplicate another one there. Put a rotation on it. Maybe I'll duplicate one more. Control click. Okay, again, this is going to slow down your render times immensely. However, I think that, not overusing them can be really effective. Just to add a little color into the scene. Okay, the ground looks pretty dry, even though it looks cracked there. So we can add some foliage too in the foreground to make it look more like a lush kind of foresty area along the coast, or along this lake, I should say. So I'm going to add some of this brush, this foliage here, kind of look like ferns maybe, or something like a lush forest behind us. Okay, and there you go. See, now it's starting to happen. You're getting some green in the foreground, but not too much. It's just enough to look believable. And we'll duplicate that, bring it across here. See if we can get that going all the way across. So there you go. You got some color now in the foreground. The reds are standing out from the greens and the yellows. Nice lake. The trees look pretty convincing, and the mountains look pretty realistic. So you want to get all of your elements happening together to create the overall composition that, at first glance you might think it's a photograph. That's what I want you to shoot for in this project. So again, what I'd like to see, and what I'm going to be looking for, is an element of photorealism. How believable is your landscape? Could it possibly pass as a photograph? And obviously, it's very difficult in a program like Bryce to make that happen. But that's your goal, and that's what you're striving for. And one way you can achieve, or a couple of ways you can achieve that, is by adding foliage, trees, and maybe some flowers too to enhance the overall composition and the color.